circumstances, so we have a quorum right now. Excused members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. And the meeting is being streamed live on YouTube channel, and a transcript is being recorded, and it lives there forever and ever and ever. So it's, okay, somebody's coming. Is that Irish? All right, so we need to do introductions, which is, we have a new member, which is Ellen Markham. And Ellen, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, with, you know, where you come from and where you live? And then everybody else will go around the room too, so that you know who we are.
Sure. My name is Ellen Markham. I joined the community board just this past session.
So you need to project, because people are not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
People are not going to hear you.
My name is Ellen Markman. I recently joined the community board. I live in Chelsea. And I am very happy to be here. Transportation is one of my biggest issues. So that's one of the reasons that I joined.
Wonderful. So Tina.
Okay, Tina Nelson.
Okay.
Remember?
Do that.
Yeah.
Well, Hell's Kitchen, you could say.
Yeah, we can say we're.
Alan
also from Joseph.
Max,
Max Christie from Hell's Kitchen.
right?
David Warren, you welcome.
That's not, welcome is not a place.
Oh,
that's
not.
That's.
He's in between.
Yes.
House on Chelsea.
Okay,
Hi, Rodney Washington, Chelsea.
Sanford Miller, Hell's Kitchen.
Charlie Todd, Hell's Kitchen.
Kristen Birthday, Hell's Kitchen and co-chair.
Jesse Greenwald, Chelsea, and co-chair.
Okay, I don't know, who are you with?
Place.
Oh.
Flex, oh my God,
yeah.
I know, I recognize you.
Flex.
Flex, thanks for being
Okay,
here.
yeah. One of the two topics we want to talk about. Okay. So presentation vote Intercity bus permit application for behind heel Trailways at 33rd Street on between 11th Avenue and Hudson Boulevard on the north side. Is the applicant for Pine Hill online?
I'm not seeing any names. If you could raise your hand if you're on for this topic.
Okay.
No, I don't think they're on yet.
All right, so we move to the next one. Pedestrian safety on 21st Street and 10th Avenue. Can you bring on the person? No?
I don't see her on either.
Is that Paula? Well, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry, what is your name?
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure you were not the person that
Yes.
we're talking. So we'll
We're
jump
making great progress.
Right.
Yeah. Two issues.
Go
Great.
directly to Flixbus operation on 30th Street. And we have received a long letter of people who live, I think, in the back of the but Janine, do we have this person online in the attendees? Oh, we have a raised hand, maybe that's what it is, right, I like downtown. Can you bring him over?
Okay. Yeah, Alex is coming over.
Hi, Alec, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to join you all.
Right. So can you explain in about 3 minutes the problems you see with the current Flixbus operation? And tell us also where you live so we understand.
Absolutely. I'm a resident of Chelsea. If I can be as specific as 30th Street between 8th and 9th Avenues, that'll give you a sense that essentially this Flixbus operation and more broadly the 31st Street interchange is directly behind my unit. I don't know if this is par for the course, but I have just a couple of slides that I can share to give you kind of a visual of this situation looks like. And so before diving in, I'll preface that I'm a big supporter and fan of the mass transit and public transportation across the city. I think it adds a lot of value, more so than transient traffic in many ways. And I'm not here to recommend that we, I don't even know if it's in our power to recommend an eviction of Flixbus or anything like that, but there has been chronic issues regarding the operation of that corner. Some beyond Flixbus's concerns, but many caused by Flixbus's operations. And so I wanted to bring that to the board's attention and ask for its assistance in remedying these. So with that up on the screen now, can you see it? A map of the intersection of 8th Avenue and West 31st Street. This is a Google overlay showing typical traffic patterns, and you can see in that red circle, the red line indicating a high traffic zone, as I imagine many of us as locals are intimately aware. If we hone in more specifically on it and get a lay of the land, essentially this is a street where you've got 2 lanes coming off of 8th Ave that can go west onto 31st, and where 31st itself can cross 8th Avenue and come over. Flixbus and Moynihan Train Hall essentially are the 2 Oreo edges between 3 lanes of traffic. However, between Flixbus's operations and other bus operators in that area, oftentimes parked buses or idling buses narrow this down to a 1-lane bottleneck. In addition, as you can see by that yellow line, there's an area here demarked for taxi and rideshare services. Naturally, being at that northbound and westbound intersection, this is the first place that most taxi cabs coming toward Penn Station or Moynihan will drop off. There's a notable Uber drop off there. And so anytime there are buses parked in any or all of those lanes, it creates some natural displacement and congestion and furthers the bottleneck. Additionally, as you can see with that, the southernmost green box there, a typical placement for a bus, there's a fire hydrant that is regularly blocked. And so I won't play the full videos, but you can here see a street view. I'll fast forward of that exchange where you've got 2 lanes turning left onto West 31st. We've got a Flixbus across the street. We've got a Flixbus parked here along that fire hydrant, unloading off the street, and then the Flixbus operation. The traffic. I'm sorry?
Are all of these buses parked? Like none of them are just stopped, they're all parked?
They're all parked except for this bus in the middle. It looks like it was stopped while another bus was attempting to enter or exit the lot.
Okay.
Here's a different view. Again, you can see all 3 lanes congested by busing, and it creates a bottleneck both northbound on 8th as well as westbound on 31st. This isn't an anomaly. I've already shared with the board about 60 pieces of video and photo evidence gathered between February and June of this year, showing that this is really a chronic issue. I'm aware that the board has brought it to Flixbus's attention before. We've seen occasionally incremental improvements, but as we can see in other examples, this is a persisting issue. Here's an example of what happens when one of the buses is occupying the taxi lanes. We've got that natural buildup, the displacement of taxi cabs, rideshare vehicles, drop-offs, pickups, etc., both from the bus station and from the train terminal. Here's an example of Flixbus halting westbound traffic because of its excess operations. And I definitely won't play the full one, but if you follow along the cursor at the bottom, we've got about 4 minutes of contiguous congestion here, blocking both westbound traffic on 31st, as well as consequently northbound traffic on 8th. In this example, this bottleneck actually caused the obstruction of an ambulance for, as you can see, several minutes. And this wasn't incidental. You've got a parked bus there on the left, right in front of that fire hydrant. Buses coming in and out of the lot. Flixbus operators guiding traffic. And that ambulance is about to come right there from across the street. And again, this is a fairly regular occurrence. From a street view, we've already talked about the fire hydrant concern, but you can see there's no queuing area. There's really no crowd management or egress on the Flixbus lot itself. There's no demarcation of zones or lanes for busing. It's pretty much a free-for-all. Consequently, I think we've covered enough examples at this point. Consequently, we've got obstructions for emergency responders. There's risk, I'm surprised and wouldn't be shocked if it's happened already, that pedestrians, passengers, or others have been injured in some way, shape, or form transversing this area. Naturally, when we've got that many cars, taxis, buses, and trucks going through, there's likely to be some type of property damage that's potential. But overall, we've got a lot of traffic congestion, excess noise from the ensuing pileups. The Flixbus buses beep constantly as they're coming in, backing up, turning around, trying to warn their idle passengers to move out of the way. And they've started using blowhorn on occasion. And then the amount of toxic emissions, I don't know if you saw as those videos progressed, but the view from my window got darker and darker. And having constantly idling buses, lots of buses in that vicinity, is in some cases a testament to the consequences of air pollution in that zone.
So do you have, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, so I wanted to come with some specific recommendations. I'll admit I don't know the scope and power of the board, but I'm kind of at my wits' ends after engaging with the police department, after trying to engage with city and state transportation services. So I figure I'll give you my shot. One suggestion is to eliminate on-street pickups, drop-offs, parking, and idling of buses on the street on West 30th between 8th and 9th Avenue. So where those green boxes were in one of that first graphs, trying to eliminate bus pileups there, I think would substantially decrease basically all of these negative factors. On the opposite side of Moynihan is 31st Street. It's also westbound, but it doesn't really have crossover coming from the east because of the block off area for the kind of the VIP and bus zones for Madison Square Garden. So one suggestion would be to move this busing pickup drop off point to the opposite corner of Moynihan where there is less natural traffic. I think that would ease the displacement, allow for taxi service to continue as currently zoned around West 31st itself. I would also recommend, alternative to all of this, consider pivoting private busing over towards a less frequented street like 11th Avenue, close to Hudson Yards, Javits, where you're way out of the pedestrian zones, still close to major transportation hubs like Penn Station and Moynihan, but not on arguably one of the busiest intersections of the city and adding to its busyness. Additionally, regarding Flixbus specifically, I would suggest that we recommend that they designate zones for queuing and for bus lanes to keep their operations more orderly. I would ask that they affix some type of an emissions and noise blocking roof over their lot to muffle the sound and reduce any toxins projecting upwards and across the streets. And I would ask that they would also eliminate the use of bullhorns on property. So some tangible recommendations, but I'm also open to any additional ideas that you have on how we as a community might remedy this.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being instructive. We want to turn it to the representative of Flixbus and tell us what if anything is changing, or what if anything is changing with the fact that you're also moving to 34th Street.
Yeah, and Alec, I'm sorry for the experience that you've had as our neighbor at the lot. Certainly, I'm actually taking notes so I can try and take some suggestions to see what else we can do with our team.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I know we've expressed this to the community board before, but we do want to be good neighbors and we are trying as much as we can to actively manage certainly what we get these comments and suggestions back. But yeah, just to speak a little bit, we have reduced our service at a lot. I know it doesn't always seem like it, and certainly thank you. You know, I understand between February to June, and we started in April on 34th Street. We have brought some of the number of buses that are traveling through that would have otherwise been at that lot over to 34th Street. So we moved some service over there. We do still have a permit on the north side of 31st that we share with, I believe it's Gunther is the travel. They are not affiliated with Flex, so they also have a permit there. Taxis are supposed to be further down on 31st now, as I understand it. There's like the little booth thing for the taxis that's supposed to be further down on one hand, but understand obviously that, drivers, both bus drivers, taxi drivers are people, so they're looking to just, offload their passengers, and get them sometimes, despite us trying to have staff there and tell them where they're supposed to go.
Mhm.
Sometimes people are people and they have a mind of their own and we can't program them, but just to speak a little bit more, we have added 8 new people onto our staff at the lot, so we are up to now a total of 13. We do have also a new on-site manager who started May 1st, to also help supervise more directly services on the lot, help to manage again that traffic flow, help to manage people. I did take it down to see, unfortunately, the way the buses fit into the lot, we're not able to add like stanchions into the lot itself, but I have taken the suggestion back to see if we can maybe do some striping and painting to sort of more clearly designate where the passengers will go. So I will take that back to our team and see what we can do on that piece. One of the other things that is tricky for us right now is both we want also to do some more improvements on the lot. We are the way that it works, we have to get a approval from our landlord in order to make improvements. They have been very slow and in fact not responded to us on a lot of our most recent requests. So we're still fighting for a bunch of improvements, including trying to add actually a separated passenger waiting area and get some benches installed. We have actually requested ones already and they denied us. So we are trying still to get that through. And appreciate certainly because they are a little funky, but we do want to be again good neighbors. The other piece that is probably the most difficult for us is of course we actually on Monday I had a meeting with the Port Authority to try and understand the updates with the redevelopment project for the Port Authority. I know we've spoken about this. We really want to be in the Port Authority. They are actively reducing down their service, and I am not sure what updates they have given to the community board about what's going on, but we are still, for the moment, out by their capacity constraints as they've communicated to us. We are continuing to try and push.
Well, you're not going to get anything for 10 years, so don't.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where we are like, if we keep requesting it, at least they know that we exist. We have been assured will be accounted for in the new terminal when it opens in 10 years, so very much, hopefully in 10 years, we'll be able to move there. That's ultimately our goal is really to get us to the Port Authority when that is done.
What percentage of the buses have you moved to 34th Street?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head what the percentage would be. We've moved, I think it's 14 a day is what we showed you, so that's 14 that have now been moved from the lot to 34th Street, so 14 trips roughly a day should be now on 34th.
And is there any chance of you not using the north of 31st Street or 30th Street?
So from a business answer, no, we'd really like to use it. We are still trying to deal with the fact that we have only limited space in the lot. And not a whole lot of other places we can go right now in terms of space. That is super.
Well, but that's one could move to 34th Street, right?
Move the space if we've got 4. I think that's something we can try and discuss with the DOTs to see if they'll allow us to have one more additional space on 34th, if it'll fit there. We can talk about it with them.
Sorry. Okay. Any
Wait. Okay.
oh, let's explain.
So, you guys said you're looking at infrastructure improvements to the lot itself.
Yeah,
I know this, so one of the quarter of the lot that goes to it, if you only use the 30 to 31st. I think it's owned by the same owner, 445, LLC, whatever that is.
yeah, yes, yeah.
I know there's a wall on 30th Street. As we look, I don't think that now maybe a new thing. so you don't have to back
Yeah.
out.
It's actually something we've raised from the first time back in when we started at the lot, was something, because for us, that would make things a lot easier in terms of just operational, not having to back buses. It obviously hasn't happened, but yes, it is something that we actually really would prefer to have,
Yeah, I
just
mean,
operationally.
it sounds complex, not a wall and having a curb cutting that street, but it's easier to solve a lot of issues.
Yeah, yep, yes.
What are you talking about? Safety, I'm
It's,
It pulls back, the lot's kind of like, it's an L shape. So it goes, there's a set of buildings that's kind of in the corner and then. Sorry, but essentially, the lot sort of portion of lot extends all the way back to 30th Street.
Yeah.
But there's like a wall or fence that's there, and so far, we've not been successful in requesting, basically, can we make that a pull through, so that would come down, and then a curb cut on the
The
30th.
control would be on from 8th Avenue.
no.
It would connect 31st and 30th. So that the buses would, they could just go straight and then exit onto.
And who is responsible for that? Is that
So-
your landlord?
Yeah, that would be the landlord ultimately that would need to, one, approve us trying to act on their behalf, which we're doing a couple of other things around the lot. But, ultimately, they would be the ones to apply. We have asked Department of Buildings this, question, and they have said, no, it must be the landlord that applies for building permits.
Okay.
So we're a little stuck.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned, not just about your company, it's another company on that block. I mean, it's really causing challenges in the neighborhood. I know you guys have tried, there was another manager who cleaned up the sidewalks, and it's really did a good job of doing it, but we have to weigh the benefit to the community. And it's really creating such challenges. I think you have to create and do the options, put them in another location, because this is not working. As the ambulance, it's affecting life and safety.
Yeah.
Hydrant, if there's a fire and someone's in the bus, they can. If not, the fire department will break the windows. But it shouldn't have to get to that. I just think that we should really think about greatly reducing the number of sizes of buses at that location and having them go somewhere else, because I pass it on 8th Avenue on my bike almost every afternoon, and it's chaos there. It's just not a viable situation.
Very quickly, I actually walk past it twice a week, not every day, and I actually walk to the sidewalk and two culverts, right? One is the cab for drop off people right at the corner because the entrance is right there. So that needs to change. Secondly, your buses are not exactly very well managed, but actually stood there for half an hour to see how that they maneuver. So that second problem, biggest question that I have is on 8th Avenue, the place where you have the flats, if you had a curb cut, so the left turning vehicle on the street itself will not conflict with your bus is going into the law directly off of 8th Avenue. Is that a possibility, Christine? Just a curb cut, they don't have curb cut.
I'm gonna see what you said.
On 8th Avenue,
Should go from
it's
8th
a corner lot, right? So instead of them coming to street and then going into the law, they can come to the left.
I see.
Across the street.
Yeah, but that would be a curb cut on it.
What's there right now?
There's a bike lane,
There's a bike
Oh,
lane.
and there's also like a set.
Yeah, what is
The
the
firefighter, they do us. Yeah, the DOT has rules, it has to be some.
It's a project.
So,
Okay,
it's a good idea.
But it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good idea, but you know, I mean, the city
the right-
doesn't want to do
Yeah.
curb cuts
bike path is a
on
big.
big avenues, right? So that's an issue. You were.
Yeah, well, first I just wanna, say, obviously, like,
yeah,
commend you for all the work that, you have been responsive to a lot of what we've suggested before, and we have to acknowledge that. So we definitely, like, the fact that you have now 30 people out there invest, that was like, any of this stuff before, so there's been some improvement. But it does seem like we're missing now one of the major parties to this, which is your landlord, which we I don't think we really appreciated before. And so one thing I'd say, any letter we write, needs to get the name of your landlord and copy there, but it seems like in the extent we're able to exert pressure on them and bring them into this conversation, we should. But just remind me though, you do have spots on 11th Avenue, you do have some service on 11th, just on 34th, not on
Yeah.
11th.
Right, 34th between 11 and 12.
Yeah, 34 is where there is
Right.
huge, huge capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where this
And
was, so,
was, yeah.
so I think what I heard is an idea to say you have to take more buses.
Yeah, that,
And the
Yeah.
bus which is on the north side, you have to move it over there.
right,
And not use that, and then we may have to do other things like move the other bus. Gunter has been there forever, so that's going to be very difficult to move them. But if we move them east, then we don't have the cabs stopping there. The cabs would have to go in front of it. So, I mean, I think we can suggest 2 or 3 things to the DOT.
yeah, absolutely.
But I think the landlord is really a favorite.
But I do think one of our requests will be, to the extent you're even going to get 5 to 10% more of your operations over the 34th, would still
Yeah.
be some improvement.
We are also right now in the process of trying to figure out, partly also in terms of just trying to be more strategic about covering providing service in the city. We're actively working through applications in 2 places in Queens and 1 in Brooklyn as well, so we are also hopefully going to be able to utilize that as well to spread some bus service out and also again provide some service to folks in the outer boroughs. So.
All right,
And
and then the bullhorn is something you can fix immediately, right?
The
He said
Megaphone.
megaphones.
megaphones. On my list of things to check in with the team.
So that's something that should be,
Yeah.
okay.
It also seems like there's probably some temporary measures you can enact that your landlord would object to, like chalk lines. Or
Yeah, so
like thing that.
for painting, we should be able to, and that's something where I'm thinking again, we can maybe explore that as a more immediate piece, so. But something I'm gonna take back to our team, our operations folks, and apologies, because Arlene, you've also met. Yeah, my coworker who has sadly injured his foot was not able to attend, so it's just me, but we'll take back again suggestions and questions, and explore what we can do again in the more immediate future, to address some of these concerns as much as we can.
So let's go to the public, Janine, we have a raised hand from Pam. And Janet.
If you'd like to speak or have questions on this, on Flixbus, now you have
Yes,
to raise your hand
on this.
on Zoom.
Janine, did you bring them over?
Yeah, I'm bringing them over.
Okay.
Hopefully decline. Oh, Pam, in order to speak, you need to accept. Oh.
Go ahead, Pam. Pam, you gotta unmute yourself.
I wasn't expecting it so fast.
Okay, you're on, Pam, we can.
Yeah, I
hear
know.
you.
I know. So I really was not paying too much attention, but I assume that you guys are discussing Priscilla's law tonight.
Yes, but that's not the subject right now.
Okay,
It's going
so
to
then
be
I
later
maybe
on.
raised my hand too early.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Janine, is there anyone else
Anyone
for?
else here to speak on Flixbus? Candace, which we did get, we got a submission from Candace on the topic, so we move Candace over.
Okay, she's coming over.
Hey guys, sorry I'm on the street right now. But thank you, Dalton, I believe, for the presentation. That was amazing. Thank you. I'm a local resident on West 30th, former community board member, but I we've come before, and you guys have been, Flixbus have been very kind, and with your cleaning up the graffiti. There is another side of your lot that has the graffiti, has rodent problems. It is on 30th Street. It's that L shape that you were talking about. That area, on 30th Street, we're starting to get an infestation of rats. And I was just wondering if we can, discuss about that, of how you guys are working around with the trash and the rats over that area. And then also the green fence. It took about almost 4 months for the graffiti to be washed off of it. And now there's like constant barriers, whether that be like a police barricade or pallets. So now it's just adding, in order to protect that green barrier on 8th Avenue, there's just obstructions on the sidewalk now in order to protect it, the fence. So I was just wondering what if you can clear that obstructions off the sidewalk on that, and then also talk about the graffiti on the fence on 30th Street.
Not sure about the graffiti on 30th. I can again take that back to our team and see if that is something that we can do something similar to what we've done in other parts of the lot. Have a double check if that is part of our lease. But certainly something we can take back and check. When you mentioned the obstruction, are you referring to the curb that the fence sits on 8th Avenue?
No, so against the fence, for the last, I would say, month now, there has been an orange like police barrier, the metal guards in front of the fence, as well as pallets. They're just left against the fence now.
But the fence on 30th Street?
The fence on 8th Avenue.
Oh, on 8th Avenue.
I am not sure about that. I'll take that back to our team and see what's going on with that. If it's on the lot itself, should be dealt with by the cleaners that we have, but if not, we'll follow up and make sure that they clear it out. If it's on the other side, it might be something where we could talk to the police about moving their barriers. I would suspect that would be where that would lie, but I will take it back to our operations.
But it's a construction barrier, right?
Yeah, it's an orange barrier. It's not a police barrier. It's just a painted orange one.
Construction,
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk about it and see.
Stay
On my way over. I appreciate the comments. I will take this back to our team and see what we can do to address it.
Okay.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, so to bring this conversation to a close, I'm hoping we can get a motion for a letter that looks something along the lines of one, we are CCing a landlord. Two, our first request is asking Flixbus to push, more of their operations onto 34th Street. Although to try to clear up the parking lane, where they're parked on the north side of 31st Street. Also working with their landlord to see if they can cut through. That would be huge, from 30th Street to 31st Street. A big request on them and the landlord. What else am I missing? I'm missing some stuff.
Well, a number of small, improvements, like the bullhorn, the painting on the lot. And definitely moving the north side bus.
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
Are we also including the other bus company, because they have a problem too, so
Well, they have nowhere else to go right now, so we
no,
have to
then they
make
need
that.
to improve them, because they have to go further, want to move them further.
No, and then we could ask, Colleen is online, we could ask that the stop be moved further east. So that
Oh, right.
you don't have, cabs again, right? Then if the buses are further west, east,
That makes sense. All right, so
then that would be, and that's something we would request.
DOT. All right, so DOT will be on this letter too.
Right.
All right,
That's
so
it.
that's fine. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Second. Okay. All those in favor of a letter that looks like, anyone?
Is Alex okay?
Alex, you're right with we took some of what your suggestions, not all of them, but, this is a good start, I hope. And we definitely appreciate the very thorough and like efficient presentation, that was excellent.
Yeah,
I appreciate you taking it up and
Legitimately like one of the best presentations we've had,
Yeah.
just like getting to the point and coming in with suggestions, thank you so much.
well, thank you for taking care of our community. Thanks to Flixbus for its improvements.
Great, thank you so much, thank you for coming. As always. Thank you.
Okay, so the next topic. So you remember that last month, we had an issue, we wrote a letter related to e-bikes enforcement, which had become criminal summonses. And at that point, we separated that issue from any legislative ask. And today, we wanted to cover the legislative ask. So you know that there have been large groups of people who have been asking for registration, license and registration of everything, every bike. We know that there are laws about reducing speed for the cars. We know that in 2012, there was a whole slew of laws passed to regulate delivery. And when you look at them, a lot of them were not really enforced. So there is a body of that, right? And then there is what happens in Europe, which is they have a pretty universal way of dealing with e-bikes and enforcing them, and has been successful. So our suggestion is that there are a lot of people in the public. We want to listen to what they have to say, and then we regroup and hopefully come to, vote some items. And it's not an easy process because it's a little messy, but we'll hopefully get to that.
I don't have much more to add than that, other than just to say, I think we're going to hear a lot of people who are advocating for one law or another. And I think this is an opportunity, as always, to not necessarily think in terms of just one particular action item, but to actually think about, well, if we were drafting a law, what would our law look like? What would our legislative fix look like? What specifically do we want to be asking for? Because maybe there are parts of certain suggestions that we're not so into, and we would want it to look slightly differently. But I am definitely curious to hear what people have to say. I know we have a lot of folks. Do we want to set a time limit?
Yeah, it looks like we have about 20 people in the queue, and so in view of that, in light of that, we're going to ask everybody to stick to a 1 minute or 1 minute and a half.
Sure.
1 minute and a half.
All right,
Each person,
90
so we
seconds.
don't spend, the whole night. So go ahead.
So if you're here to speak on e-bike legislation, bike safety, bike enforcement, now's a good time to raise your hand. We'll bring you over, Tween will bring you over a few at a time to speak. And as we just said, we're gonna be setting a time limit of 90 seconds each, which Charlie, our friend here, will be enforcing. And so hopefully you can keep your comments brief to 90 seconds. Also, obviously, to the extent that people have made your point before, feel free to reference that and say, we've heard this before, and try to, if there are new things you want to say for us to hear, try to focus on that. Okay.
So, Janine, can you start moving people over? Looks like we have.
Okay, Mary and Janet are coming over.
Wait, Janet.
We saw one person, but that person disappeared. What
Yeah,
happened?
there's Mary, Janet, Pam, and Susan.
Okay,
Mary,
where's Mary? Oh, Mary.
Mary first.
So
Mary
Mary
back.
go first. Here we go. Oh, Susan is here. Mary, Pam. Where's Mary?
Mary, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know why my camera isn't working, but can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Your time starts now.
Okay, I just would like to say that I believe that we should be passing Priscilla's Law, which is the City Bill 0606 for licensing and registration of e-vehicles and scooters. The egregious riding by these cyclists has become dangerous to any pedestrian in the street, in the parks, etc. And the reason the police have been handing out criminal summonses is because there's no way to catch these guys unless they set a trap, which is what they've done with the criminal summonses. But they wouldn't have to do that if they were licensed and registered and we could catch them on the cameras. And then it'd be very simple. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay,
Thank you, Mary.
Susan.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am very much in favor of passage of Priscilla's Law for so many reasons. I had a group a community organization on the Upper West Side, and it is the number one topic for 2 years of members. And we've had so many injuries, many of them life-altering, because a number of the people that have been injured are over 60, and they've been injured both on the sidewalks and crossing the street and every way you can imagine. I understand why the police commissioner did what she did, because she has no choice. She has no choice. There is absolutely no way to hold people accountable, which changes their behavior, because the police have had no way to really hold them accountable. If they wrote a ticket, the ticket.
That's 90 seconds.
Right. So I would like to see the community board pass Priscilla's Law for all those reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, Pam. You are on mute right now.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got it. So I'd like to echo what was just said about Priscilla's Law, of course. But what I want to reiterate on a personal note is that already 3 years ago, I was hit by an e-bike. You've heard my story before, I've told you before. And just recounting it now is really quite daunting for me, because I don't talk about it that much anymore. I've really tried to put it in the past. But and yes, I agree with Susan that the reason Governor Hochul did not Hochul, Commissioner did this is because she had no way of holding anyone accountable, because no one has passed Priscilla's Law. So we would be so grateful to you guys for supporting this bill, which has been on the discussion ballot now for at least 2 years. I don't know exactly how long it's been, but I know that I personally got hit. I'm partially paralyzed on my right side. I lost my career. My life has changed 100%. And the thing is that, yes, it's not one statistics 1 or 1,000, because we don't even know what the true stats are. But isn't one too many? Isn't one of me too many?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Janet.
Hi, I won't reiterate what was just said. Thanks for hearing from us. I want to say that, first of all, e-bikes are not bicycles. We all have to face that. They weigh 80 pounds. They have motor up to 80. They have motors. They brake more slowly. They go faster. They're much closer to a moped. They should require license plates. 90% of the people in our group that were hit, over 101 victims, only 4 people out of 101 stayed at the scene of an accident, and only 6 have police reports. So when you look at the New York City DOT stats, they couldn't be more wrong. We have ER doctors in our group. They look at those stats and they're horrified. They say, I see more in my one hospital than that they have for the whole year. So please keep that in mind. This is so much more serious than the DOT wants to say. Everything about the C summonses that were just said, we're not for C summonses, but there was nothing else to do because there's no way to hold these e-bikers accountable. So if you want C summonses to go away, I have a great solution for you. Support Pastilla's law, help it get passed. These new 15-mile-per-hour speed limits, they really do nothing because they have nothing to do with accountability. Nobody has a license plates. They can't be held accountable to go to 15 miles an hour. And I want to say that a lot of legislators and community boards say, oh, well, we should get delivery apps to license. Delivery apps can't license e-bikes. They can't. They're independent contractors. They work for 4 or 5 delivery apps at one time. So which one are they going to be licensed through? And what about when they're not riding to work? They're just riding to or from work or on a off day. And e-city bikes are some of the worst, and they're not deliveristas. So the delivery app does not solve the problem. Please, this is a democracy, and we want to be heard over the special interest transportation alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dad.
Oh, you were doing fine until then. Just kidding.
We like you personally. We just don't like all the special interest in the community boards.
Okay. The next person.
Jahaya and Fawn.
Jaya.
Hello, thank you for hearing people talk on this topic. So I ride a pedal assist, and oftentimes I have 1 or 2 kids on my bike, and I would just like to sort of say that I think there's a wide range of uses for pedal assist bikes that are very different than what people make them out to be as motorcycles. I will say I think the Transportation Committee should focus really on infrastructure where you can have a lot of impact, focus on sidewalks that are currently smaller than the pedestrian mobility plan. If fixing that can reduce conflicts, focus on signal timing, that can reduce red light running, focus on bike lanes that allow cyclists to pass, that can avoid cyclists in the sidewalk extensions. There's so many more things on that category. And then I'll also just say, like, I strongly object to criminal summonses for cyclists when they're not used for motorists. NYPD has issued summonses for many years without any issue. There's no need for that. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jaya. Who's the next person? Yes. Fawn.
Fawn.
Fawn, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. I'm one of your neighbors, and it's my first time joining one of these meetings because I really support Priscilla's law. The streets, the sidewalks are absolute chaos. And I've personally heard stories from probably 20 EBSA members about their e-bike accidents and getting hit, and most of them being hit and run, and they're left with physical pain, injuries, mental anguish, financial. They have to cover all of the hospital bills. And every time I've heard these stories, I leave just so emotional and just can't stop thinking about it for hours. And I've been nearly hit myself. I've seen just the craziness. Changing the street design is not going to change rider behavior. There needs to be accountability with the e-bikes, with license plates. They're not afraid of getting caught because they can get away easily. It's like the #1 getaway vehicle as well. And we just need to be able to enforce with cameras. We know the police isn't going to be stopping every single e-bike rider, but if there's cameras and license plates, we can change the behavior, and changing street design is not going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Fawn.
Yeah, so what do we have next? Samir?
Hi, I'm Samir. I'll try to read quickly. I am opposed to that law that would add license plates to e-bikes. Frankly, we have license plates on mopeds and it doesn't work and they look very different. And we need enforcement, but I don't think this is the right way to go about it. Frankly, a lot of new e-bikes look very similar to regular bicycles that don't have pedal assist. And this is just going to end up being used as an excuse to stop and frisk every New Yorker who's on a bike, because you really cannot tell if a bike is an e-bike or a regular bike. I think it's a little bit silly to say that, we need licenses to stop doing this criminal summonses. Those are cruel. And to hold those hostage to get your policy priority, I think is really reprehensible. And it is true that we need more infrastructure because it does change behavior. Studies over and over show that. So I hope that you will take all this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Who do we have?
Sandy, Judy, and Miriam.
Judy, can you unmute yourself? Oh, Sandy, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having this meeting and thank you for letting us speak. I agree with Mary, Susan, Pam, Janet, and Fawn. We need Priscilla's law that require e-bikes to be licensed and registered so that reckless bike drivers like the ones they've encountered and that I've encountered can be held accountable. I see what these ladies are seeing. I just want to be able to walk to the grocery store without being menaced. And until there is accountability, rider behavior is not going to change, and I'm still going to be menaced until rider behavior changes. I'm not a huge fan of the C summonses, but that's the only tool we have right now. If you want those to go away, we need Priscilla's law. So I urge the community board to support the passage of Priscilla's law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. So, Sandy?
Good evening. Thank you for having me back again. I welcome and support NYPD's new C summons. Finally, there's a consequence for behavior that has gone unchecked for way too long. But make no mistake, this is just a stopgap. The real fix is, as everyone said, Priscilla's law. It's common sense. Empower cameras to automatically issue fines and penalties for dangerous riding behavior. No racial profiling, no selective enforcement, just clear, consistent consequences based upon behavior. The biker lobbyists who pack these community boards and stridently oppose this are defending lawlessness even as they purport virtuous intentions. C summonses are the accountability we need today. If you don't like it, then get behind Priscilla's law as the systemic solution we need today. We need to put safety first, not convenience of unregulated e-bikers who've demonstrated no regard for laws and flout safety for their own self-entitled convenience. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you. Miriam, you're next.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I also support Priscilla's law for identification accountability. I'm quoting what Janet said. Have read 90% of injuries of bikes of pedestrians are unreported, and most are hit and run. In our neighborhood in Chelsea, and I think 2023 in August, pedestrian on 22nd Street and 8th Avenue, a block from where I live and a block from elementary school, PS 11, there was a hit and run death of a pedestrian. Person was never found. Recent webinar on MCB4 on the bikes in the parks had several people who shared their difficulties getting the NYPD to document their problems. One thing that just haunted me and stayed in my mind was somebody who shared that they had been told by the NYPD that they left the scene of the accident, they left in an ambulance, and that 6 days had passed and it was too late to report. I strongly recommend that people gather together and try to develop guidelines for reporting.
90 seconds.
Miriam, can you wrap up?
Okay. Reporting this and not depend on arbitrary police officers and recent June 5th Streets blog said 37 injuries of pedestrians in 2024 was an insignificant number compared to cars. 37 may not be accurate data, as we know, but these are all people who were
No,
injured.
wait, Miriam,
Okay.
you have exceeded the time, so, I think you need to wrap up, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Next up is Chris Sanders.
Yeah, I think we'll put his hand up. Can we just say, if you're
Okay.
here to speak on this, hold on one sec, Chris. If you're here to speak on this, now is the time to raise your hand, otherwise, and then we have some people in the room, and then we're gonna close the public comment on this. So again, if you're here to speak on this, now is the final time to raise your hand. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the Priscilla's Law. Like I get it that a lot of the delivery cyclists and e-bikes generally, they don't always obey the law, in my opinion. You know, they run me down and all that. But I don't think adding a big, huge licensing program for e-bikes is the right path forward, because it's big, expensive. It's like a waste of everyone's time and resources, and they're still gonna not solve the problem. I'm interested in people solving the problem. I think rumble strips, what are the speed bumps and things like that can slow the e-bikes down. I think those are better solutions to get them to actually slow down and obey the law. But I do agree that it's a problem. I just think that Intro 606 is not going to work. And then we're going to be right back here in a few months after the bill is passed, wondering why this thing that everybody said was going to work, and then it didn't actually work. All right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and I saw Roberta. Roberta, it's your turn.
Sure. So, hi, I just tuned into this and heard the discussion of Priscilla's Law. Was not planning on speaking about this, but did feel that it would be worth adding my perspective. I am a sort of occasional e-biker and really have valued e-bikes as a mobility tool to supplement my regular acoustic cycling as a form of functional transportation. I am very in favor of, I guess, evidence-based design-oriented solutions as a means of ultimately making our streets and bike lanes safer. I agree with all of the speakers that we have a real enforcement issue, but I would just encourage the committee to consider design-oriented solutions and solutions that have evidence to back their implementation or to support their implementation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any hands anymore. So, in the room. Yes, yeah, no, but I just online. I wanted to close the online session, and now we're going to turn to testimony in the room.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Matthew Robinson, part of CCDA. A couple things. One, it's not just e-bikes, it's all bikes. What happens generally is someone on a regular bike sees someone on an e-bike violating the law, and they say, if they can do it, I can do it. So it's not just e-bikes that are an issue. I like the idea of possibly doing speed bumps to reduce the speed in which they go on blocks. They go in every which direction, left or right direction. In addition to that, the safety island that you then go to on every corner seems like it's a safe zone, but to get to it, you're going across the bike lane. And you normally think that you just go left because the bikes are coming left, but they're coming right, and there goes an accident. In addition to that, the way that the bike lanes have been set up adjacent to the street, a good chunk of the sidewalk ramps, which are supposed to be ADA compliant, are absolutely illegal and dangerous. Because a lot of times, especially when they're off on a 45-degree, you're having someone on a wheelchair looking slightly left when the bikes are coming right and there's a blind spot.
So there's more issues than just e-bikes, and how things are done, and everyone understands, including myself on a bike, when I'm going the wrong direction. I know it, and everyone else does. It's not a matter of education. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in person. So, we are going to close the public session and now get into a discussion, a business discussion with the committee to try to make some progress on this very difficult issue. And I think that I can say that everybody's trying to resolve the problem, the same problem. Everybody wants safe walking, safe biking. The bikes are saying, well, one is too fast, etc. And it's really more about what is the best technique to get it under control. Because it's true that the way it is today, we just can't grow more biking if it's going to be of that nature. It's not safe for everyone. So, I don't know, we want to go around the room and see what the reaction to the Priscilla's law.
Yes, and I hope, I got a chance to read the document I sent around a couple days ago, hopefully just gave you some background on the laws that are on the books, some of the other proposals that are out there, some of the concerns with those as well. But yeah, I think we should go around.
So, yeah, the comment, love the comment to be constructive, like, we don't like Priscilla's law as it is, but if we were going to change it this way, A, B, C, then it would be viable, right? We don't want to just go around the room and say, no, I was elected. The importance is to say what is acceptable.
Who wants to get us going? All right.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
What? Okay, yeah, I think, I generally do not support Priscilla's law, although I am very sympathetic to the motivations of, advocates of the law. The, biggest consideration for me is just that, like, biking is overall like a good thing that the city as a policy goal like wants to encourage, mainly because it's greener. It is, reduces congestion and, it's, generally safer. I know that's some cast some doubt, but I'd say generally it's a safer mode of transportation. So, and those are very important things. Like congestion is a huge problem, like emissions from transportation are a huge problem. So I think and I think encouraging e-bike usage does encourage just overall bike usage significantly for many people. Like going up hills, kids on their bike, just, older people, et cetera, they just benefit a lot from the electric bike. It makes it much more viable transportation option. So I think, with those things in mind, if you put a license on it, that will just dramatically reduce uptake. I think even the city bikes, so the electric city bikes, which, many people use, even people who would never think to actually own an electric bike themselves. Suddenly that's not an option, I guess. So that's, yeah, I think that's really my biggest concern with the Priscilla's law. I think the 15-mile-per-hour speed limit is sort of kind of a secondary issue, but it was something that Jesse, like many of your records videos talked about, and it does seem like that is sort of the widespread international standard across basically everywhere except the US, that is 15 miles an hour is the below that you don't need a license, and above that you do, and that seems pretty reasonable to me. But I think, yeah, the other thing is just okay, we're not gonna have licenses, we do need enforcement. And I think the thing the argument I found most convincing for Priscilla's law was that you could use cameras. Because that is true, that it's just dramatically increased the amount of, you can enforce red lights, you can enforce going the wrong way, you can probably enforce speed limits too. All with cameras, which I do agree, that is, I think on balance, I'm not in favor of it, but I do think that's a compelling point. And if we if we can't use cameras, then yeah, we have to find something else. And I think, I sort of disagree that ID-based enforcement doesn't work, that's how enforcement of every other crime that's not a traffic crime works. Like, I don't know, if you like. Do drugs on the street, like, you don't, you just look at your ID. Like that hasn't stopped the enforcement of all other crimes, so I'm not really convinced that there's not another option, that like that's not enforceable. But I do agree it doesn't make cameras an option, so it does require just more like resources from. Cops, like being proactive and getting out there, and I think, yeah, like. Just need to like push harder on the top, maybe be like dedicated cops doing like enforcement. Okay, sorry, that was quite long-winded, but those are my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Thanks.
So we've heard testimony, people supporting the service law. So we should play a scenario of facility law in effect. How Department of Transportation, it's gonna be the State Department of Transportation that's gonna regulate these bikes. And that means it's gonna add expense, times of severe budget cuts. NYPD is going to enforce these license things with the cameras. I mean, these are all, we should really pull, and I haven't even pulled everything, I just pulled 2 or 3 things out. That of course, who's gonna pay for these courses, how much is it gonna be? You have to have employees, civil service employees work for the Department of Transportation, specific units geared toward this. How many people will they need? How many people will they be employed? So if this passes, we have best case scenario, we have this, what will that, we have to make a hypothetical on. Of how that's going to be implemented. To know what's happening. To me, from when Jesse said down, they tried it in Toronto and it failed. But we still need to iron that out, that, because so many people said they support this. We need to know what it's going to look like.
I think people are picturing like that it's always linked to that it makes the individual who's breaking the traffic law accountable. But in reality, half of those bikes are registered to a leasing company or city bike or the rental, but it's not necessarily true that the majority of bikes are owned privately by the rider. So I think we miss half of the accountability benefit anyway. So a law as it's written.
And people would just have an e-bike that looks more like a regular bike, not have a license on it, like you have a ghost plates problem, essentially now with bikes.
Also, why are we using cameras now if we have that law with like the vests and the ID numbers?
That's part of the thing that we bring up, like,
No one were-
that's like already on the.
Right.
Books, it's also part of the problem, yeah. You're
I just very quickly, I'm Michael myself, and I travel miles 5 days a week. I ride to the city, I walk through the city, I go to head my city bike, e-bike, city bike. While walking on super sidewalk, I got tossed over, landed on my knees, I had to go through physiotherapy, and I'm still working on it. I'm not against biking at all, I'm not against the law as well. Problem like we were talking about David 2 minutes ago, who is going to regulate? Now I go ahead, there was a policeman in my PD bike, standing right next to his van. And I looked at him and I said, "Why you want me to stop at the?" And he looked at her and she said, "Oh my God." So it's very, very, very clear. Who is going to enforce it? How the regulation is going to work out? This happened in New York City, and I accept it. I believe it. That there are a lot of things that shouldn't happen. It don't happen. Law, even if you pass, there's second half. Design is one part of it, but enforcement. Who's going to be responsible? So if this law has to move forward, I think our question is how we actually going to make sure that it can be implemented. Is it going to help? No, because it will still do all things. I mean, when you're walking through a crosswalk, light is on, it's your time to walk through, the lights keep going, and that happens. Because they're not looking at you, they're looking at cars. There's a hierarchy of privilege. And pedestrians are the last one. I'm both pedestrian as well as a bike. Do I ride the wrong way? No. Have I seen people that I know? Are they people ride the wrong way? Of course I have. Point I'm trying to make is people do this. There's a human nature, unfortunately. But we tend to sort of take things for granted. I will stop that. But regulation enforcement is the key issue. Law could be beautifully structured for the matter.
I want to echo a lot of what Sanford said just about how I worry that licensing e-bikes is gonna discourage cycling use. We are in a climate change crisis. Our skies have been gray for a month now, and we don't even notice anymore, because of our air quality. And I think anything that is putting up a hurdle for adoption of cycling, I think we don't want these delivery drivers in cars. Imagine if everybody in DoorDash was driving a car in New York, it'd be a nightmare. And I think we do want to encourage cycling as much as we can, just to make our city safer, greener, and less congested. So I worry about that. I worry about people like me and friends of mine who take their kids on bikes and need an e-bike to be able to have two kids on the back. Or people who are old or who just don't want to show up at work sweating. I think there's a e-bike is an amazing tool, and I worry about discouraging the use of it. I also I wanted to talk about the speed limit. I think maybe 15 is reasonable and a bike lane, but a lot of our streets don't have bike lanes. We don't have a fully built out protected bike lane network that we need. So when I'm on my e-bike, with or without my kids, if I'm on a street that doesn't have a bike lane, I have to bike in the middle of the street, then I'll go 20 miles an hour because I want to keep up with traffic. I don't want an asshole from New Jersey behind me to, ride up on me. So, I'll go faster. So I think that concerns me, of mandating a speed limit citywide. I think within a bike lane, I think that becomes more reasonable. In terms of the biking and the sidewalk, I really like what Jahia said, which is we need to have wider bike lanes on 10th Avenue. It's not as much of a problem now because this community board pushed them to make that wide bike lane. On 9th Avenue, we have a beautiful super sidewalk, but we have a very narrow bike lane. So that's why we see a lot of cyclists who are using the super sidewalk to pass, or unfortunately to go the wrong way. And I agree with Darren about enforcement. I think this committee.
A barrier between the super sidewalk and the bike lane.
Yeah, or some planters. I know DSNY doesn't want to put planters, but something to discourage any vehicles from going to the super sidewalk. But I know that this community board has been talking about enforcement of this issue for a very, very long time. We've written a lot of letters on it, and we don't see it. I walk down 9th Avenue 10 times every day back and forth picking my kids up from school, and I don't understand why Midtown North can't just stop a cyclist going the wrong way. And go do it for 2 weeks and give everybody warnings and say, starting July 1, we're giving out $50 tickets. And it shouldn't be a criminal summons, but I think we would see behavior change. And then the final point is as Jesse brought up in the document he sent us and people have brought up, is it's the app companies that have ruined our streets. And I think if I understand that they're independent contractors, but maybe they shouldn't be, maybe we should change the law where they can't be independent contractors, or if they're working for 4 different app companies, then fine, the app companies have to work together to have some sort of universal licensing system. The old method of wearing the orange vest that said "Me Noodle Shop Chinese Restaurant" on the back, and there was some accountability if that person hit someone or did something dangerous, we've lost that with the app companies, and I just think that's the number one solution, is just fixing that.
Can I do the thing? One great thing.
Hold on, Max has not spoken yet.
So, I think this is great testimony, because I agree with a lot of it in terms of this is an issue in the city. And I think it has to be known that there's 2 dually laws proposed, right? There's one of the state assembly, and there's also one of the city council. The city council was a local law, it's not really gonna do anything, the text is pretty hard. But the state law is much more relevant because that's due with the DMV, and they actually classify e-bikes in the state of New York. I don't agree with that text either, but I think it's closer to what the goal is stated to be. The law should not be what it's written right now. The law should be classified e-bikes closer to what the world test standards are, especially in the European Union. And getting rid of throttle in that category of pedal assist is huge. Throttle and e-bikes from pedal assist should not be the same category as full stop. It just should not be.
Full stop.
It should full stop. It should not be, you should have no effort, press on throttle, and go 20 miles an hour. That is a moped. I completely agree. That is absolutely a moped. In terms of the speed is everything here. As a lot of you know, I also work on an ambulance in the week for a 24-hour shift. And I responded to a lot of bike accidents. And a lot of those bike accidents are not e-bikes. In Southern Park, for example, I go on a lot of bike bashes on the East Drive and the West Drive. And there's a lot of non-e-bikes that have crashed with pedestrians. Speed is everything, not the heaviness of the bike. So when you hit something, right, this massive velocity, mass is double the kinetic energy basically. But when you do velocity, you quadruple, you exponentially decrease the injury that is caused by that bike. A 20 mile per hour bike, not e-bike, hitting a pedestrian will cause a very severe injury. Same with an e-bike. If an e-bike hits someone at 10 miles an hour, that injury is much, much less severe. So the issue is not e-bikes versus bikes. The issue is speed. And that thought, how easy it is to do that thought. Right, so the reclassification of e-bikes is absolutely key. Having a registration system for an e-bike that can only go 50 miles an hour is ludicrous. It's just ludicrous, it's insane, it's been tried in Switzerland, it's been tried in other countries, and it just doesn't work. Switzerland is for field trips. I mean, because it's just a bureaucratic nightmare. It adds so much, but this is the difference between registration and licensing, which a lot of people like talking about. Registration is for theft, anti-theft stuff.
And insurance.
Yeah, and insurance.
Yeah.
Licensing is for the accountability. Registration is fantastic, you should have registration, and that's putting a number on the bike at the point of sale, so you can track that bike, just so you have the vehicle identification number on your car. That would actually encourage more ridership, because police can catch potentially someone that steals your bike. But it does not have to do with enforcement, because those speed cameras should not be able to catch that number. That's just my thought.
Okay. Yes, you were going to.
No, this is quickly, I agree with everything you just said, but I was just saying the weight doesn't matter, even if you're not going very fast. That having like 18 pounds or whatever.
It's a combination.
It's a combination,
That's what you said. Okay.
I still think, you know, I like what Charlie has said, I agree with, but we're gonna have to go to full board and to the people. And what we have in front of us is Priscilla's law, we should be discussing exactly what Priscilla's law is going to look like and how it's going to be implemented, so we can review it, I mean. And that's, it is the law in the state assembly and in the Senate, including Senator Boyle, who was out of the state assembly, is one of the main sponsors. So we really.
He's not a main sponsor of Priscilla.
It's commercial.
It's commercial insurance.
You are, so,
Insurance for commercial buying.
Our-
Like another.
But this is what, this, I believe, with the last committee board, they kind of said, he was giving us blowback, because we've got to discuss Priscilla's law and unfortunately.
No, I don't think that's the
Well,
case.
I mean, I agree with the sense of like, if we are proposing other ideas, we have to explain why Priscilla's law is not necessarily the ideal.
Right.
Solution, but I think we've been hearing some of that tonight, so I think.
I mean, we know it has been used in other.
Well, we know it's been used
And
in
it doesn't work.
Toronto, but the thing is, so now. And I apologize for repeating myself, you're gonna set up a licensing with people, civil servants working at the window, people coming to it, I mean, we have to play out this whole scenario to understand the magnitude
Yeah, but
of
yes.
what these Priscilla people want
Right.
and what it will create.
Alan.
Well, a lot of good issues, but one thing I would disagree, I don't think some form of registration and licensing is going to solve it. I think a lot of the bikers who are out there want something done about those bikers who are including this whole system. So when you say let's have wider bike lanes, they walk up down where I am, and go to 23rd Street, they're in the middle of the street. So if those folks who are in the middle of the street decide, well, I'm not gonna pay the $100 to be registered or licensed or whatever, good, let them go. Somebody else will sign up, will have safer bike lanes. And instead of unsafe roadways.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We can wrap up that section. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just two things. One is the, just circling back to the 50 mile per hour speed limit. I think one thing, I know Shelley, you made, I think, a fair point about like, if you're on the street, you may wanna go the speed of traffic. But I do think a big benefit of the, having just like a more or less universal 50 mile per hour, like classification limit, is it manufacturers will just manufacture bikes that only go up to 15, either because of a, just an arbitrary limit that's built in, or they just actually won't be able to go above it, but either way. And I think that's really valuable, like people will. If the bike can go above 15, people will do it regardless of the law, but the manufacturers just don't produce that. And yeah, if you bike really hard, you can still, I mean, on a regular bike, a fit person who bikes hard can go 20. But like most people, like they're gonna be like, oh, but like when the pedal assist cuts off, like that's gonna be a clear sign to them of like, I shouldn't be going faster, and that'll just be the norm. Basically, all bikes being sold will be that. And yes, it will be sort of create some potentially some issues on streets. Where I guess you just have to either bike really hard to keep up with traffic or just go a little slower. But I think that's you know, like trade-off that I'm willing to take for all the other benefits of just having like a self-enforcing norm, the bikes just go a little bit faster. Other thing I wanna address is the, I think with the like app-based and the city bikes as well, like, these are, they're great, technology's created some problems, but I think we can actually use technology to fix some of the problems that technology's created. In the sense of like, everyone is like carrying around a phone that is monitoring their coordinates and their speed to some degree at all times, and also
And the
monitoring
DoorDash app.
if there is a crash, like you can literally see that the bike was like, it may be hard, I think, to pinpoint exactly, but like, you can see like this bike was at this location at the time of the crash. I don't know if that's a perfect system, but like, there's so much data, and I think just, and this is not a huge regulatory burden, like app companies can only protest so much if all they're being asked to do is just like hand over the data.
Report, right.
That's truly like, you know, a small ask, in the scale of things. So I think, and city like city should already have that data, like we should just be using it to say like, okay, like in some way, figure out a system of like. This bike was at the location of this crash, or this like trip was just too fast to be humanly possible. I'd probably have company should get in trouble, not the rider, but like this trip cannot have occurred that quickly. I think there's a big answer of like, what are like policy solutions here that don't just put all the burden on. Like cops need to do more things, which like they do, but also how can we reduce some of the burden on cops? This is a big way we can do that, is all the riders that are on city bike and on app-based, which is probably the majority of bikers and certainly the majority of offenders, to be honest, like. We can use the data to do a lot of the enforcement already.
A few final points for me. One, I want to stick up with throttle just a little bit, which is when you have a 11-year-old and a 7-year-old on your bike at a red light, it is nice to have a little throttle for the first 5 seconds. But I agree, people who are just, they never move their legs at all and they're just going, 30 miles an hour, that's different, and that's a problem. And I get why it should be classified differently. On the idea of the manufacturer limiting a bike, like you buy a bike, you can only go 15 miles an hour. I'm open to that, but let's make cars do it first. Because why can a car go 100 miles an hour? Every car that's sold in America can go, what, 120 miles an hour? Why? There's no roads where you're allowed to do that.
Through city bike.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy for bikes.
Right.
Right, like city bike could put a universal.
Right, and they do, and I think that's being lowered, but I would love to, I mean, we're talking about the super speeder law now in Albany. Where if you, the worst offenders are gonna have their cars limited, but why don't we just have GPS in every single car where you can't go more than 9 miles over the speed limit? The car won't do it, that'd be great, but. And it just frustrates me, the conversation frustrates me, and this keeps coming up, and I know, I walk the streets every day, and people are going backwards. And somebody whizzed by me yesterday in the super sidewalk, and it bothered me. But last year we had car and truck drivers killed 113 pedestrians, and 1 pedestrian was killed by an e-bike, and that's 1 too many, but it's 113 times less, and I don't know why. And we talk about having, cameras, first of all, that would require separate legislation to be able to even have cameras, bike speed cameras, but the legislation as it is now, we have speed cameras for cars in such limited places, they're called school district. We only care if they speed near schools. Well, my children walk away from their school, they walk near my house too. So, there should be speed cameras everywhere for cars and red lights, and then let's talk about the bikes that are doing 113x less death on our streets. Final point I want to make is if anybody in this board has not ridden a bike on 3rd Avenue between 60th Street and 90th Street, I highly encourage you to do it. It is green wave signal timing that we've been asking for. It's set to 15 miles an hour. If you start biking and you can go somewhere, I can't bike 15 on a regular bike, but I'm going 12 or whatever. You don't hit a red light from 60th Street to 90th Street. So that would disincentivize anybody from going more than 15, because if you go more than 15, you're gonna start hitting red lights. So I think if we could have green wave signal timing everywhere, then we would get rid of the incentive for our DoorDash drivers to speed.
Well, you just run those red lights, actually.
But
Yeah.
But in order to have red lights, red signals, cameras on bikes, you need some kind of identification.
You need what?
You need some sort of identification.
For what?
For bikes.
For the green signal timing?
No, for lights, for.
For
red
cameras.
lights,
Yeah. Sure. But I'm saying we don't even have Albany doesn't have the ability to do the cameras, I guess you would have to have the license plates first.
Okay, one more?
I just want to add some other context. So when I go through Northern Lights, I bike over there and I ride my front spot feet. It has this great feature where it has a throttle assist only when you are walking in, and I think that's fantastic. And also, when you first do that first pedal, it picks up a little more energy in the motor, which is really nice. But what I find a big thing when I went to Europe is the social pressure to continue the laws and fight in a respectful manner, which we just completely lack in the city. And that social pressure is so important, and we have to get that back. And licensing and facilities not the way to do that, because it's going to discourage bike use in the city. And you want to encourage bike use. And when I bike over there, I see a lot more people like me biking, not doing delivery apps. When I bike here, usually the only person on the bike right way, that's not a delivery worker. And then you think of yourself in a different category. And then you either follow them or you feel the pressure to follow them. If there's more people biking, you have that added social pressure of biking respectful better. That's what the city really needs. And anything to refer to that goal, I think, is how we approach this.
That's a big lift.
Yeah.
Right?
So if you enforce a law for some period of time, it becomes the social law.
Although circles back to what Roberta said, which is we need support for any change in implementation. Is there enough evidence for a change? And frankly, that's what I personally, because there is no enforcement, so I'm happy. That's why my instinct is, oh yeah, let's go get registration and licensing.
But it's, right,
Because
and
there's no enforcement.
and my answer to that is that we have a zillion of cars with registration and plaques, and there is no enforcement, I mean, zero.
But there are
So that's, we have a bed of.
There is some,
What?
like,
Well, I mean,
if you
there's
drive a car the wrong way, you will probably get in trouble.
Yeah,
If you blatantly go through a red light, you'll probably get in trouble. If you go 50 miles above the
No,
speed limit.
definitely not.
You
If
know.
you turn left from like a no left turn lane.
Yeah.
almost never.
No, but these things are like, there is some enforcement of the most egregious offenses in cars.
Where cameras exist.
We have
Yes,
cameras,
with cameras.
but not with NYPD.
Yeah,
Not with.
it may not be camera,
No,
it
but
may not be.
it's, point of information, if there's a proper way to hit one, with a car or truck. There might not be the city cameras, but a lot of stores and businesses have them and NYPD.
Yeah, but
can
who's
get-
going to watch those
NYPD will if someone's off with skill. They will go in and they
If
will.
somebody gets killed.
Not, yeah, that's what I'm saying, that, I've seen it done with the hate crimes,
Alright.
on the hate crimes panel, and people commit hate crimes. It's usually found out on cameras from stores or private.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Alright,
I
I'm
have
gonna
a
try to,
wrap-up.
I'll try to. Alright, I'll set my wrap up.
I have a
Listen,
first-
I
I have two levels of wrap up.
Okay.
One is, I don't know, it seems to me that above 15 miles per hour and above pedal assist, it's like a different animal. And it's something where we could draw the line and say, above that, you look more like a moped than the bike.
Well, can I ask you, those are two different things, so that is my question, like, is it a vehicle that can go above 15 miles an hour? That needs to be registered, or is it
Yes.
one that is a throttle that needs to be
No,
registered?
no.
It's
No
the 15 miles an hour.
15 miles per hour and
Okay,
then above that.
okay,
And if it's not, if you don't have pedal assist, then,
right.
it doesn't go. So to me, I'm hearing comments and I think this is where I would say that would make me, and this is the way the European people did do it. So to me, it's important.
You need to use the right,
No, but I mean, they tried it,
I mean,
it's working.
Europeans do seem to have bikes
Right,
doing
yeah, they got
it better.
So it seems to be working, so if there was, the Priscilla's law amended to be that limit. It would make a better option.
Okay. So I do want to just to, okay, so one thing for just starting, it does seem like there's some sort of consensus in the room that Priscilla's law as written is probably not the right way to go for many reasons in terms of it won't actually work. So Toronto, right, there's an example, if managed by DOT doesn't really make sense, maybe
And then
DOT would be
you need
better,
cameras.
bureaucracy, the cost of it,
And then
cameras, all of these things. I do want to just separate though again, and make sure we do comment on the other bill that is pending, which is our state senator and assembly person's bill, which is requiring registration and licenses for e-bikes used for commercial purposes. Now, do we have, I wanna ask, how do we feel about that compared to just 15 miles per hour being the dividing line between registration and not? For me, I like 50 miles per hour because, so to the extent that registering does actually disincentivize people from purchasing a bike, those are the kind of vehicles I do want disincentivize. I don't want throttle bikes going 30 miles an hour. I mean, I would much prefer them to be in mopeds that are forced to follow the traffic rules as they are. So I like our 15 miles an hour, but I just wanted to make sure that, because we would be taking a position then on our state senator's bill. I want to make sure that we're okay with that.
But that bill doesn't pertain to speed.
It doesn't, no,
Not
correct.
at all, but it's a different way of slicing.
Different
the-
licensing.
We would be saying, we actually don't love that way.
I think I told if I didn't like
That
that.
is actually a very local law amendment, to have the app-based drivers have the best that the actual stores have, which they don't have right now.
Yes.
Would be able-
Yes, and we have that, this is in place too.
Well, it actually doesn't apply to app-based drivers, the IDs for that.
No, I mean, it became obsolete with the app.
Exactly.
And what we could ask is to have, to resurrect that.
Yeah, exactly.
And to do that, as for the delivery people to have an app ID or whatever on their vest.
Just
right?
like the Chinese restaurant has.
Right, right.
Exactly.
And this is something that everybody thought was a good idea in 2012. But then, you know, the apps didn't happen.
So, okay, so we have the clarifying line of 15 miles an hour seems to be the registration part. On the app part, I heard, and there were proposals out there, but this would be our sort of supporting these proposals and crafting them ourselves, but mandatory reporting for the data, so we know we can start identifying, hold on, sorry.
Yeah. And then I. You have.
Bicycle operator and ID numbers and IDs for the app delivery drivers.
Right.
We did hear, I think it's a good point, that all of the workers do work for numerous apps. And I heard a solution to that, right? Some sort of, we would, you know, they would need to work together and create some sort of licensing entity. And probably put in, maybe it's a self-regulating body where, you know, like, many of our federal, or, you know, there are many federal bodies that are, you know, paid for basically by the companies that they regulate. We could potentially do something along those lines of something where the apps have to create their own licensing scheme.
Or just like cross registration, right? Like the individual person has an ID number and they can register it with every app service they buy.
Oh, yeah, that's even, I like that, that's even more simple, right?
Yeah, but I think people wanted to have that ID on their back. And
But you're
so-
saying like for them to.
Yeah. To
Like,
wear it.
one
To wear it, but
Well, it's
regardless,
like-
they have an ID that they can't get they can't work for an app delivery company until they have they register their ID
And it's registered.
and it's registered with them.
I don't get it.
I think if you
I'm
tell,
not sure I'm getting the.
So-
Say I drive.
What
for
problem
DoorDash.
we are solving?
So say I drive for DoorDash and Seamless, and my ID number is 123, so my vest says 123. And if I get into a crash, will Seamless and DoorDash report their data by mandate? And whichever one I was driving for at the time, that's the one that gets in trouble along with me, I guess. Because I was driving on, like,
Yeah,
at their behest.
yeah.
And you can't you know, you can't sign up for a new delivery app until you like they recorded your ID number and they know what ID number you are and that it's shared among everybody.
So the other thing that existed before and which is still is driver's education, you know, like
Right.
having quick training, which is essentially what they are doing through C summons right now, because they go there and they give them a brief. And then they go, so this is not good, but having a driver's ed and a message, we don't talk about that, having a message on the app. Let's say you can't take the next delivery unless you say, I understand that I'm not supposed to do ABC.
I think that was a suggestion we had in like a letter like a
Yeah.
year or two ago. But we
Yeah.
can
So we
re-up
can re-up that, I mean, that's, I think, and then, we didn't talk about that, but I had read suggestion of having incentive for the apps. that they have incentive for safe driving.
That's a good idea.
So it could be a negative incentive or a positive incentive, but that say, you know, when they send some people out and they have their average of safe driving is X, then there is incentive for that.
It's similar to Uber and rent car, when you have your license. If I'm driving a zip car, my license is stupid, my license is the zip car, they don't collect money from.
So I think having that as part of what
And
we
similar-
want the apps to do.
Because they're doing the opposite now, they're incentivizing people
That's
to
right.
speed and to go
That's
the
right.
way and.
So they need to figure out the reverse incentive. So that they, the people have an incentive, like, you know, if you are not in trouble for, you know, X, then you have a bonus point, you know, you move up in the queue, right?
Yes.
Something like that,
A lot.
okay.
You can even just do it based on crashes, like,
Just have a very silly
like
question.
outcomes based, like if you're responsible for more crashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or penalties. And then I have written, and this was a little bit of your point. Implementing some of the laws, you know, we have a law on the books for 20 miles per hour for cars. If we're going to give all the bikes 15 miles per hour, we need to escalate this implementation of Sammy's laws. Because I mean, DOT is dragging their feet on
It was passed a year ago and
Right.
it's been done in like
Nothing.
3 streets, I mean, you know.
Right. So I think, you know, asking for fairness is like, if we want the bikes to do certain things, we need the cars to do certain things, especially because they are, you know, creating so much more. And on the summits, mirror the summit. So if they want to continue to have the C summits, which we don't want, right? We should say the cars should have C summits.
Well, I think we should keep cars out of the center completely. I think we should just focus on bikes.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a lot more effective than tying cars to this too, because that's a whole other thing, street safety, right? But I think if we just focus this letter on bikes, or what we suggest for this bike situation, I think it'd be a lot more effective.
Like, you know, that's doing a full board.
Yeah, the full board last time was very sensitive to that.
I think focusing on cars is not going to help you much, but education, infrastructure, and enforcement. These are the 3 components that
Right.
follows. I was in Zurich, I stepped down, I could not, the car stopped. It was their line, they stopped.
So you're a person,
They stopped. Say again?
you are a person.
Yeah, exactly, but that doesn't happen. The last, one quick thing I will tell you is we don't have demographics here. We talk about bikes and cars, but we forget there are, I don't know, 75% people involved. So we really have to sort of, when we talk about law, we will make everything right for this, that, and the other, but the other one, like, being left out, I'm a biker, I love it. But if we're talking about law and regulations, let's just take into account how many percentage of people actually ride versus how many people walk, particularly out in our district, and how many drive. So let's make it equitable. We talked about equity right now, but let's make it equitable. But how do we actually manage this?
But I think the point of not making,
Not DOT.
not taking the, you know, the cars in the equation, just because last time we had a huge pushback.
What was that pushback?
It was like, you know, we started the letter saying, you know, there are so many injured pedestrian and there are so many injured bikes and injured by bikes versus that, and then everybody said, don't even talk about that.
I feel like being like, you guys have a double standard, like, puts things off on the wrong foot.
I know.
I also think there's a very, like, once you bring in cars, the argument people make is, well, cars do require license and registration.
Yeah, no, that's it, and then.
Which
But
was,
I am also sensitive before, so I am sensitive to the argument that like a lot of the bike incidents are not reported.
Yes.
But I am sensitive to
But
that.
I
argument,
had to emphasize this point. Who are we protecting? What number? It is a demographic.
Yeah, but the number are questionable, that's the problem.
It's questionable, we
That's-
can
that's the
find out
problem.
very easily, but I can give it to you without even looking up.
No,
There are
no,
more people walk than there are people ride.
oh, yeah, walking versus riding.
That's what I'm saying, so if we had really.
Okay, so but we were talking about bringing the cars into the resolution one month, and then I think I'm fine with not bringing.
Can we write a letter next month that says why is it your
Yes.
why Sammy's law is not
Yes.
implemented? I mean, I just, That's fair.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm-
even
I'm-
this month, we could,
But I-
we could have a separate.
I'm just exhausted by us having to talk about this for an hour every month,
Yeah.
and we never talk about
Right.
the issues with car speeding.
Alright, so we would maybe split into two letters, one about bikes, one about Sammy's Law. I'd like to wrap this up, and I do see, Carrie, I see your hand is up online, but we wrapped up the public session about 30-40 minutes ago, sorry.
Right.
So
So I think.
I don't wanna reiterate everything that we just said, because it'll take forever, but I hope people just gotta, I feel like what was just said in the last 10 minutes sort of is a cohesive letter with several ideas, and it seems like we're all sort of on the same page.
Right.
So,
We have a motion.
all right, is there a
Motion to do that.
Great, motion to do as discussed.
Second.
You'll see the letter, all in favor.
All right, we got that.
Anyone?
Very just one quick request, because there's some confusion here. Can we just clarify what presence back here today?
Oh, yes, please, would you like to?
You guys, I don't, you tell me.
Well, we did not know when you sat down, we were confused too, but.
I didn't step down, I was a juvenile.
Wait a minute,
Great.
start before.
Great news, Bjorn has been reappointed to our board, so we do not have a committee. That's what we're trying to do. Oh, sorry.
Our board is very efficient, so I'm just,
Bravo.
and it's the board that stood up for it, not the sort of elected, anything,
Oh,
the
good.
problem we reached.
Okay.
Oh, you just, I'm actually officially here, so I'm.
Yeah, we're very happy.
Officially voting, Jesse, email me. You're just saying,
I was saying, why is
So
it?
Jessica texted me.
I didn't know, but I came to know Sunday night because I actually had to reach out to VP's office, they had conveniently forgotten that they were supposed to have sent me a letter. And then I was actually asked to go for CLU meeting on Monday, for which I had not even received an email, but now I'm wondering, Jesse said my mistake.
Very good.
So I'm very impressed with the board efficiently, by the way,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to be back.
Great.
But at the same time, let's talk about, Brett.
Oh, well, yeah, right, sorry, yes.
Yeah,
Very.
I gotta take off too, because they were like.
Right.
I didn't know that meeting.
Oh.
So that's where I am, but it's.
Brett, we talked about 31st Street for 20 minutes before you got there.
Yeah.
We really did, we talked about 31st and 8th.
We were in favor again.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll stop.
Alright, well, the next time you might see me with when I actually finally get time to actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
We sent it to you in person, but just to say publicly, and we obviously like have so valued your contributions to this committee, they've been really valuable. So we come as much as you can, please.
All right, thanks.
Hey, can I just make one tiny comment, please, Jesse, really? Christine,
I mean, maybe we gotta ask.
hey, Christine, just one quick comment. I have to thank Christine, I have to thank David, I have to also thank Inga, I have to thank Candace. Candace actually stepped down. Eric Watch has always actually reached out 20 times, not once, 20 times in a day, to explain to me that he needs to mistake. And this way, it's not my voice.
No,
I'm absolutely thrilled to be back, and I just want to make the point, as a member of the committee, please don't lose your voice, please. And I have sent my comments to CRC, that the way appointments and reappointments, appointments are being weaponized in community boards is basically totally wrong, not even proper.
All right.
Voice matter,
Okay, so we
thank
need
you all.
to do more here.
But we-
So we want to go back.
Well, I just wanna make sure if they're here, we gotta go back. Denise, do we have any representatives for items 1 or 2 online?
No, neither one.
What's that?
No, nobody's on for either one of them.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
We like that. So the next item was knowledge transfer, and our intercity potential experts would like another month to do a beautiful map. But so, thank you. I will contact the next person to see, do the next meeting. Review of New York City Charter Revision Report. Did you see, could you, Janine, bring up the document, which was the which was the summary by
Roberta, and we have Roberta online, she was with us, so Janine, do you mind moving Roberta over in case she has any thing to contribute here? If she might.
So charter revision, if it's going to show up on our vote and ballot. When is that, the September, no, October, right,
November.
And there is a bunch of things which have been proposed. And I want to zoom in one of them, which I think, you know, relates to us, to our community.
Sorry, Christine, was that in the Dropbox?
Yes, it
Yeah, okay.
was, and it was, one piece was, that was the charter. Right?
Okay.
Yes, it was.
So that's there, the memo.
Huh?
Now there. Oh,
It's like a
yeah, it's the folder, sorry, it's the folder up top.
Or you have to do the memo,
The folder up top, Janine, and then the mouse.
and then go down to the last item, one of the last items.
Okay, 1 second, sorry.
Okay.
Memo.
Five minutes.
Is it, I'm sorry, is it the memo or the other one?
The memo, yes.
Okay.
No. No, just hold. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me know where to scroll to.
Okay, go slowly, go back slowly. Slow down. Yeah, fine, so the last one. I know, I didn't remember. Further down, just a little bit, that last bullet, can you show us the last bullet? So that bullet says that they want to be able to offer revocable consent to non-adjacent property owners for the purpose of installing electric vehicle chargers on public streets and sidewalks. So immediately you can imagine my blood is boiling. And now they want to do it on non-adjacent property owner, which means that probably they would want to go a whole street.
Wait, okay, you clarify for us normies, like what is the existing?
Yeah, can you explain?
What is the existing
Existing-
limitation about
I think
who you can offer a revocable consent to?
Okay, well, let's narrow it down to the
Yeah, for this purpose.
the electric. I think now they have to request to get the revocable consent for one property. So if you want to put your charger in front of one property,
But is the person, like officially some entity requests their revocable consent and the city just grants it?
yes,
Is that entity like the property owner who owns the property
don't
then, or is it the?
I don't know, the only.
Because this is, I mean, I think it's very important, like, very unlikely that like we're gonna see large scale. You know, whether you use the pro or con, very unlikely we would see large scale deployment of electric chargers. If each individual property owner, we can't even get individual property owners to install like broadband internet in all their buildings, like they're not gonna
Yeah,
have
but
everything,
the
but it's like a big, if a
The
company that's
opposite
an
is
electric charger company.
Non-adjacent. So
Can
you
come
would
and
have
say
your
like,
property, and then there is 2 or 3 properties that don't do it,
but
and then you would have property
but
further
when they say
back.
non-adjacent, what that makes me think of is like a company, like an electric charger, like a.
Right,
He's gonna come
Yes.
along and
yes,
that, it's not gonna be landlords at all, it's gonna be companies that do electric charging
you're
at their
probably
core
right.
business.
you're probably
And
right.
I do think that makes sense in that like, it doesn't make sense for landlords to do this, regardless of
Right.
placement on the sidewalk, which I agree, I don't like.
So that's the
but,
only
like,
reason I
when-
to oppose that is the sidewalk.
Okay, so the sidewalk part is, but the,
Yeah,
allowing non-adjacent property owners, really meaning allowing companies to do it is fine, as long as you do it on the street.
except if you let the company do it, they're going to be more aggressive on putting it on the sidewalk. So I think what you are doing is enabling them on doing more on the.
I mean, I agree, but like, if we want a meaningful amount of electric chargers to be built on the street, like, we can't have individual landlords install each one.
No, I agree, but I don't think we should have them on the street. We had that discussion
Well, how-
before.
Parking
You put
lots,
them in
gas
a parking lot,
gas
in
station,
garage, gas station, parking lot, garage, so shouldn't be on the street. I mean, that's,
Well,
That's-
it's the privatization of the.
and it's a position we've already taken, so it's
Okay,
not something new here.
It's a land grab by private entity.
Right, so what I'm saying here is that, you know, imagine on 44th Street, you're going to put that stuff. It's gonna be-
I mean, I agree, but I do think like the trade-off is like. If you have like a street that has 10 parking spaces and then you put in an electric charger at each parking space. Now it takes up some space, you only have 9, so it is a loss, but it's a loss of 1 parking spot. And I think,
I
But
don't
it's
care
a,
about
but
the
it's a
parking.
permanent enshrinement in one parking spot, maybe we want 0 parking spots.
I don't care about parking, I care about the side of the sidewalk
but,
and having this installation on the
but
sidewalk.
I mean, I'm coming from perspective, and
Right.
people differ on this, but I think like. Encouraging the transition to electric vehicles, it's similar to like, more people biking is good,
Yeah.
but also more people driving electric vehicles is also
Right.
like a large good that we want to encourage.
Right.
And I think that, you know, the big difference is one of the main reasons that, main advantages that, you know, gas cars are worse in many respects, certainly for the environment, but one of the main advantages they have is, you know, at least today, and probably for the foreseeable future, like, you can fill up your gas tank in 1 minute versus charging takes,
10.
it takes some meaningful length of time.
10.
And so like,
We don't want to-
but the gas station like don't have the capacity if every car has to sit there for that long, versus if you can do it at any parking spot, there's not the
Right.
issue of capacity.
So we should have that discussion again, because we have already, you know, legislated on that for us, saying we don't want them on the sidewalk.
Right, but this, I mean, I think, well, I would agree with, if you're saying you're against the sidewalk part of this, but I would
Yes.
not be against the thing as a whole.
All right, that's fine. Let's remove the sidewalk. So we'll make a comment saying not on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Everybody, okay with that? Okay.
Kind of, I mean, like, that's such a great opportunity for the city to take back some. Take back the opportunity to charge from parking and put in. Our own electric chargers,
Neither, yeah.
like, along, like, you know, you can park here, and you can pay us for electricity. Why are we privatizing that,
Right.
you know, like, I question the entire premise,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's not the, like, that's not really what they're asking.
Right.
We should bring that up for.
Well,
we
let's
should
have
bring
a
that up, and
discussion.
that is,
But we could still, like,
Let's have that discussion.
I mean, I think the efficient way to do that would be to tax it, would be to say like, if you do. Electric charging on city streets, presumably like, you have to pay a tax on it, I think would be more efficient than like trying to have a city agency figure out how to install. Electric power infrastructure in mass, which is probably not fairly.
All right, guys, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
Let's have it, because that's worth it, but not now, because we want to talk about something, a few other things. So the charter revision, can we make a vote about removing sidewalk from the text?
It should be moved, yes.
Right.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second,
second, everybody in favor? Okay. We don't have any update on, we don't have any update on, Port Authority, the update is that we have been, working ground. It was groundbreaking
We sent it to
with a big. And, US one study, we don't have an update, we did two big, I would like to bring a new business here, which came up last week. There is a restaurant.
Wait, sorry,
are we finished the charter?
yeah,
Yeah.
were you voting against, because I was curious, you didn't raise your hand, sorry, we should have thought that. Okay, you can vote.
I'm sitting back now.
You abstain?
All right, then, just a comment.
That's it.
Just a quick comment on what I've been reading through. I think the charter does need to be somewhat amended to make things a little bit easier. Simpler. How that gets done, I'll leave it to the experts on the committee, but things need to be changed somewhat to make process of building a lot easier in the city.
Okay, but that's a comment that CLU is going to make, right? The buildings, yeah. I mean, we can put it, but it's right, okay.
In general. Yeah, we need to agree on transportation issues also. Things have to be, the regulations really need to be fine tuned somehow. And things really need to be somehow. Able to get things done by them.
Okay.
I bumped into somebody in the park that's being renovated. I thought it would take 3 years. This, takes 3 years. Shouldn't take 3 years to renovate park, so.
Okay. So the new business is a very simple one. There is a restaurant that wanted to put a roadway. And there is a very old regulation in front of that. It's a regulation that used to be, that had been put in place on 39th Street when there was a fair on 39th Street. The fair has not taken place since 7 years. Flea market,
Yeah.
right. The fair has not taken place, but the regulation is still there. So because of that, he's being refused the roadway. So I'd like us to send a letter saying we would like the regulation to be changed and to be modernized so that it is, current. And if it was current, like, deliveries, whatever, then you could put his, yes.
Why does there cease to happen anymore? Why are they not doing anything?
So that again?
Why is the flea market not happening anymore?
Oh, because they run out of business. It was costing them too much money. And the vendors were not paid enough and it was not working. And now that street is used for the staging of the Port Authority. So this whole regulation makes no sense, right? So
What restaurant are you referring to? On the point, what restaurant?
it's Needy's, it's at the corner of 39 and 9.
There's a cannabis store over there too, right? That we approved.
On the other side.
No, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
While we're talking about Very Nice Street, they did make the bike lane over there in front of the construction fence, so
Yes.
the construction. And they did it with a sidewalk next to it, so people are just walking in the bikeway,
I know.
so.
We just told them today. We told the Port Authority
It's
today.
basically the fact sidewalk. And for.
Yeah, so they need a big sign saying it's not a sidewalk.
Or put a sidewalk and get rid of parking.
No, they can't.
But this is the issue on 37th Street too, that's the first supermarket, so that's not out there next to the fence. And people are walking on the streets in the way of cars next to the construction fence.
Oh, because we have, that,
Because.
and I'm trying to push for, we did that last month to get a Trinity crossing.
I just think it's vital that we have a temporary sidewalk anywhere we have construction.
It's the law. It's the
Yeah,
law.
so I don't understand why it's not happening
Yes.
here.
It's the law that any construction projects have to provide temporary sidewalk and temporary light lines.
But what they did is that they said cross the
That
street.
doesn't do it.
I don't,
People
yeah.
know this.
I don't think that now.
It's just not saying,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I have noticed some things, but not all of them. Okay, so could I get a resolution so we can send an ask of changing making the regulation common,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to build it then, yeah.
Yeah, it's like an old thing.
Are we open to another street fair going in there if somebody expresses interest, or do we not want one in the future? Like, cause I think of that, I like that.
So what we are going to do is, let me say, when we have negotiated the Port Authority, we have negotiated like a super sidewalk. So now we're going to have, when 39th Street is redone, it will be a very large sidewalk and stores, and there will be stores on the ground floor.
I would almost rather see another RFI put out for another flea market to go there than get rid of that designation. I think that designation is kind of unique for this area. I don't know if that exists anywhere else in this neighborhood. And I would hate to see the only place that it can go away. Because I think it's a really cool opportunity to have that come back if they issue another RFI for an operator to go back there.
The problem was the operator.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that, it was such a community, people came together there, you bought some cool stuff. And it's such a unique thing that really doesn't exist in other places in the city.
So are you suggesting we don't change the regulation?
I'm suggesting we talk to SAPO, the street permitting office, to maybe issue another RFI for another operating building. And act.
But you don't do that, because now this is the Port Authority station,
Well, no,
construction.
only some of it, because cars still are allowed to go through that street. And as long as through traffic's allowed, a street there can also be there. And I think it's a very useless space to having through traffic anyway.
I don't think that's going to fly with Port Authority with their stuff.
There's another flea market, walks out, there's a Chelsea.
But it's not closed, closing the street. It's like a combination, it's a combination of open street and a fair.
Yeah.
And it was very unique in that it took forever to get it approved.
Yeah.
I would hate to see that go away, it's not.
I think we should keep it, and find a way to kind of get some sort of.
So let me think about that,
Yeah.
let me talk to the
Good
Port
thought.
Authority about that.
Yeah, it's a possibility. It's gonna be so hard to re-implement that if we do want to make that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that's why we did the super sidewalk and the,
Super sidewalk
the
is there.
stores, etc. So this block would be completely activated, and on the other side, there's a park.
That's great, and flea market actually be more appropriate than the super sidewalk area too. Right, so it would be nice to have the flea market come out where the super sidewalk is there.
Yeah, but we need to find an operator. We don't have an operator right now.
Well, what was the last time we issued our buyers? Like, we don't know
We
what we
didn't-
issued yet.
Oh, Safeport did.
I don't know who did, and they might.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
put a pin in this one, all right?
It's
All
like-
right. Well, did we get a vote on that parking thing?
I make a motion to let them have outdoor dining, you can change the
Thank you.
regulations.
Thank you. Who else? Everybody?
Well, second.
No?
All right,
No?
all those in favor of that?
Oh, she was voting.
We're voting on updating the regulation to allow them to have outdoor dining.
Open and, right.
Are we getting rid of the street fair permit?
No.
No.
Okay, so that's yes.
Right.
Okay.
City Hall.
Yeah, all those in favor?
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, this has been like 8 years or so.
Yeah. I don't know.
We should hold on to that, I'll take an example in now, very well, yeah.
Okay, I'm done with that.
Does anyone else have anything else before we?
Motion to adjourn.
This was one of our, most ambitious.
Did it let the first two topics come in?
No, they never came back, so we're gonna have to postpone them for another meeting. Also, again, I just wanna thank everyone who's been
Yes.
out there canvassing, the corners. I know most people have, you have one more month, but I'm so appreciative, we've gotten so much done. Thank you, Ron and Alice for giving us their tips on what they learned, they were out there early. Are you a question?
Yeah. So when Marty and I went and did our sections, we noticed that immediately we got an email or a text saying that this case has been closed. And so we wanted to get clarification. When we say we want ADA, that's a little tiny piece of plastic with little dots, right?
Yeah.
So when we, there's no option on there to say that's what we're asking for, so some of the.
Yes, there's a comment. You can see the comment.
Just say ADA comment.
So then that's what we needed clarification on, because we didn't comment on that, and he's done emails back saying, well, your case has been closed, because we
there's
didn't
nothing there.
say ADA.
Yeah,
I
like
see.
just say, so
So
if
for
you.
those of you who have not
I'll
done
talk
it,
to you. But if you get to a corner and it looks good, but it doesn't have the rumble strip on it, you should still submit a comment.
I put it as it's damaged.
Or.
And then.
once we did,
Yeah, put damage and then put ADA. Yeah, great, thank you all very much, all right.
Thank you very, very much.
All right, Jesse, Christine, there's one hand that came in the public. I'm not sure if it's an old new business.
Oh, new business.
Yeah, let me bring them over.
Sorry, hold on, everybody,
We
wait.
have new business, we need to vote on new business. Christine vote.
If it's on the bike letter, we're done, so. The window to close on talking about e-bikes closed a while ago, so. But if you have new business,
So
here,
Christine vote, could you tell us what you want to talk about?
Yes, it's relatively simple. I live on 7th Ave between 24th and 25th Street. Can you hear me okay?
yeah, we can, sorry.
And there used to be a bus stop on the corner for the M7 and the M20. And it was moved to directly in front of our building. And on rainy days, our awning becomes a bus shelter, and people really impede the foot traffic in and out of our building. So I don't know if you know why that change was made, and if we could possibly move it back to the corner rather than directly in front of our building.
So Christine, can you send us an email with the details, so we know exactly, maybe some pictures?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, and we'll send a note to MTA and ask the question.
Okay. Yes,
And
I'd
if
be
you
happy
want-
to.
Thank you, Kristen.
And if you're on Campbell, tell us what you would like to talk about.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I live in the same building with Christine, and I just wanted to sort of say that it really is a problem. It creates a lot of traffic in front, that bus stopping directly in front of our front door really creates a problem with traffic in and out of our building. It also creates a bit of a mess because often there's garbage that's left from people who are standing waiting for the bus. And we have two commercial buildings. The building actually takes up the entire block. It's on 7th Avenue between 24th and 25th. And on one corner of the block, there is a supermarket. And on the other corner, there is a Amazon drop-off center. It would be much better if that bus stop could be placed on either one of those closer to one of those corners instead of directly in front of the building's door.
So if you can send us in an email all this information, then we can make inquiries with FTA and get back to you, okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for thank you for being patient with us. Okay. Now we are. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.